Are you planning a trip to Vietnam soon? Well, if so, this video is for you because this video is going to help you prepare for your upcoming trip. Now, the information I'm going to give you today in this video is going to be very simple, straightforward, and the most useful. Alright, so before we get started, I just want to say if you are looking for an answer to a specific question, check the video chapter titles because you can navigate through the video and you'll find what you are looking for. That way you don't need to spend as much time. But other than that, I want to jump right into this video and get started. So let's start off with number one. Alright, the first thing we're going to talk about is Vietnam seasons. Well, Vietnam is in a subtropical zone to tropical zone, kind of similar to Florida in the United States and some other places like that. Now here you have a rainy season and you have a dry season. The rainy season is going to be mostly from about May, I believe, to October. Right now, as filming this video, it is nearing the end of October, so rainy season is ending, and usually it's only raining maybe once a day, sometimes once every couple days. But the dry season would be the other time, so you're looking at November to about April. Now, the rainy season will impact cities differently depending on where the city is located. So for instance, the central region of, say, Hoi An, maybe Hue, and some of the cities around there tends to have the worst flooding situation. If you want to avoid flooding, maybe don't go to the central region during the rainy season, but here in Saigon in the south, there is a little bit of flooding sometimes, but it's really not that bad from my experience, so you shouldn't have to worry about it too much. But you will see most of the flooding probably during the months of September and October, I believe, so during the last part of the rainy season when the rainfall is much higher. Now, if you are coming in rainy season, you need a raincoat or you need an umbrella, and best to have good durable ones, some strong ones that aren't just cheap and rip and break, right? And sandals. That's one of the most important things. Bring some with you or just buy some cheap ones here. Alright, let's quickly talk about the second thing you need to know here, and that is the temperatures. Obviously, we just talked about the season, so it's good to talk about the temperature now, right? Here in Vietnam, because it is a subtropical tropical climate, you will have pretty steady temperatures, honestly, that don't really range too much unless you get up in the mountains in the north. So in the north, you will typically have temperatures of about 15 to 30 degrees averaging throughout the year. In the south, you're going to have something more like 25 degrees on the low and then about 30 degrees on the high. The temperatures can vary, they can change depending on seasons and stuff, so you can have higher or lower, right? But those are average temperatures from north to south pretty much, and even in the central region, you will see similar temperatures, I believe. So just make sure you pack everything you need, light clothes, and if you don't have everything you need, don't worry about it. You can buy everything here for a very reasonable, affordable price. Now the next point here, the third point, the third thing you need to know is probably the most important, but also probably the most confusing and the most headache of them all. And that has to do with the visas. Obviously, the visa situation can depend greatly depending on who the tourist is, where they come from, maybe when you're visiting and things like that, right? But there's some simple answers to the visa situation here, right? So keep in mind, whoever you are, wherever you're coming from, and you're coming to Vietnam, if you want things done easy, simpler, and you want to spend a little extra money, go with a visa agency. It will save you a ton of headaches. The online visa website here in Vietnam is not the easiest thing to deal with. The system lacks a lot of maintenance, lacks a lot of modern tools to it because its functionality, its user interface sometimes just doesn't work the way it should like other countries' visa applications online do. So if you are planning to apply for a Vietnam visa yourself, just take your time and overlook everything very closely as you will need to. But from my experience, I always do a 30-day visa and a 90-day visa. And it's simple, right? You can get single entry or you can get multiple entry. Single entry for 30-day or 90-day, I believe is the same price last time I checked. 30-day, 90-day multiple entry is like double the price. So it's usually something around $25 to $50 depending on the visa, and that's US dollars. Okay, on to the fourth thing you need to know, probably another very important thing when traveling to any country in the world. Here, this topic is cash versus card, right? And like in many countries around the world today, still, cash is king. So here in Vietnam, cash is always the best option. But you can use card almost in, I don't know, I want to say maybe 75% of places, something like that. because a lot of people do pay with card. Here in Vietnam, actually, there's a lot of payment with some form of electronic system that is like Cash App, if you know that, or Venmo, or some other phone application that you can pay with. They have that here. I don't exactly know what it is. I never tried it, but you can definitely use card. I use card in like all the convenience stores. You can use it at the grocery store. It's just sometimes the small businesses, small restaurants, small cafes is where you cannot use your card. Remember, cash is king here, so you're best off to have cash. Either bring money here with you and exchange it. There's actually some very well-known exchanges in the central area. I'll link them below, that way you can kind of check them out on the maps and pin them. And then there's ATMs everywhere, so you can withdraw money. And I believe the fee for ATMs normally is only a couple dollars, so it's not too high. There are a few different notes, and it's different than other countries because here in Vietnam there are no coins. It's just notes. And your notes you have here start at about 1,000, then they go 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. Those are the ones you see the most often. If you're going to a place that's less touristy, better to bring some cash as backup just in case. Alright guys, on to the fifth thing you should know. We are talking about language here. The language here is Vietnamese. It is a very difficult language because it has many tones and it's very different than other languages like English and stuff like that. But English is used here, just not that often compared to some of the neighboring countries like Philippines, maybe Thailand and Malaysia. But here in Vietnam, there are some people speaking English, mainly in the tourist zones, the markets in District 1 and the walking street area. But the English is limited with these people still. So if you are coming here to Vietnam, it's best to just learn some simple things, you know, hello, thank you, and stuff like that. And most importantly, just use your body language. I think the Vietnamese people are very good at using body language and helping foreigners out, even if they don't speak English. You just point, you know, you gesture to what you want. They will try to help you to the best of their ability, and usually there's no problem. You will find that a lot of the menus and food items and writings have an English version as well, so you shouldn't worry about it too much, and just use your translator app to translate it with a picture if you need to. Alright, the sixth thing you should know is one of the most important also. This is accommodation. I've never stayed in a hostel in Vietnam, but I think the average nightly price is about $10 when I look online. Maybe it can be more if you're staying in a private room, but that's generally, I think, going to be the average for those big dormitory rooms, 8 to 10 people or so. Hotels also can vary very differently, but there are so many hotels in Vietnam, so the price is generally affordable for the most part. You're going to pay something around a monthly price of maybe $200 to $500 for a hotel stay. It can really range depending on where you are staying. Like Central Saigon is probably going to be more money. I had found that the average cost of a night is somewhere around $30 usually, maybe a little bit more. So Airbnbs generally tend to be somewhere around $150 a month to maybe $400, $500 a month, around there on an average price. Of course, you have more expensive Airbnbs, but those are more for luxury and stuff like that. You're gonna find either a room in a private home, a whole apartment to yourself, a studio, something like that. But the good thing about it is generally that the Wi-Fi is actually really nice. Sometimes they have kitchens so you can cook, which is what I like because not always in the hotel do you have a kitchen. But with Airbnb, typically from my experience, it's more like $20 to $25 a night for Airbnb. The seventh point, this is going to be the cost of food. Now, if you know Vietnam, if you've heard of Vietnam, you probably understand Vietnamese food is very affordable. So the most iconic dish here probably is pho, the soup, right? And typically with pho, you're going to spend somewhere around 40,000 dong, which is the local currency, to about 90,000 dong. Next, say the dish that's also famous is broken rice. It's some sort of rice with maybe meat and some veggies sometimes. That you're typically going to spend maybe 30 to 70,000. So also a big range there, but it depends on where you are eating. And probably, arguably, the second or even maybe the first most popular food item for tourists and even locals here sometimes is going to be the banh mi, the sandwich, the Vietnamese sandwich. Now that also will range pretty greatly depending on where you go, but the cheapest I normally see is about maybe 15 or 20,000 dong, but that will also go up to about 65,000 or so depending on the restaurant and the style, what's in it. Next is just the cost of, say, getting a coffee going to the cafe. If you drink coffee on the side of the road at a very local place, it's going to be very cheap, sometimes maybe 15,000 dong. But you can go to the other cafes and sometimes pay 55, 60,000 dong for a coffee. So water, you'll probably spend anywhere from 7,000 to about 70,000 Vietnamese dong. And that's everything from a small water bottle to a big giant refillable jug you leave in your house and you just use the tap on it to fill up. So water is very affordable here in Vietnam and you don't have to worry about it. You can eat at the convenience stores like here, Circle K, 7-Eleven, Mini Mart, Mini Stop, or whatever it's called. And they have a lot of very affordable food, everything from like those rice rolls, those onigiris I think they're called. You have those, you have ready to go prepared meals, you have some hot food. But generally also the food there is also very inexpensive, something like 10,000 dong to maybe 40,000 dong, and a few things higher. But the next point is number 8. This is the best way to get around Vietnam. If you're going to be flying from, say, a city in the north to a city in the south, or even in between some cities, there's a lot of local Vietnamese airplane companies where you can fly very quickly, direct nonstop. And generally you're only gonna pay, maybe a few $100s maximum. But sometimes you can score flights very cheap for like $50. So that is your option for traveling around the country. Now you can take buses. Actually, in the center of Saigon, there are many travel agencies that put people on buses to go to nearby cities, especially in Cambodia or to cities in the north and to the south, so it's a great option for you. Also, traveling with a vehicle like a car, right, or maybe a transportation service, there's plenty of those around here. Of course, there isn't as many cars as there are motorbikes here, but cars are a good option for you when you're arriving from the airport. You can order a Grab car like the Uber for just a few bucks usually to get to the center of the city, maybe $5 maximum. But most importantly, motorbikes. Motorbikes are the main way to get around here. All the locals, that's how they do it, right? You see the traffic is crazy. I actually just made a traffic video about Vietnam here. You can check that out here. And you'll see how chaotic things can get. But if you are planning to rent a motorbike, I'm sure you can find them very affordable. I don't rent motorbikes, so I don't know too much about them. But from what I hear, a lot of people rent them. They're affordable. A lot of people buy them and then sell them. But motorbikes are definitely the way to get around. You can use them as taxis like with the Grab app. And generally, you're only going to spend $1 to $2 to move around the city. But walking in most of the cities in Vietnam is challenging. It's a sport in itself. Sometimes the sidewalks are not in good shape. There's many things on the sidewalk. Sometimes the motorbikes park all over the sidewalk. Sometimes they ride on the sidewalk, like in Hanoi mostly. But walking is sometimes challenging in the city here, in different cities, so you also want to plan accordingly to where you are going. And if you're going to be walking, you need to be extra cautious, so try not to be on your phone because you're more likely to break your ankle by tripping over something than somebody to steal your phone. All right, I'd say we got the most important ones out of the way now. There's just 2 more I want to discuss here. One is tap water, drinking water. We already talked about how much it costs to buy water, right? But here in Vietnam, do not drink the water. It is not safe. Majority, and I mean majority, like 95% probably of the locals do not drink the water, even in the countryside. Yes, you can boil the water. You can use it for cooking. Actually, in some places, people do boil the water and then purify it and drink it. So you can do it that way. I've been to Vietnam 3 times. Like I said, I've never had food poisoning. So I don't drink the water. That is why. Now, just be careful with maybe some of the ice sometimes because you never know. The ice could be coming from the tap water or not. So be careful. All right, the time has arrived. The 10th and final thing you need to know, and you're almost ready for your travel to Vietnam, here in Vietnam, to discover such a wonderful place. That is the people. Not the tourists, the local people, the Vietnamese people. In my opinion, of being here 3 times in Vietnam, the people are just wonderful. They're very, very friendly, very smiley, and even with the big language barrier sometimes, still, they're just the best. They're very nice people. And in general, Southeast Asian people I find to be very generous, just nice people, and sometimes they go out of their way to help you. But one thing you shouldn't worry about is you will see a lot of local people staring at you, this is just common. They like to look at you, they like to see what you're doing sometimes, and sometimes you might be in an area where tourists don't normally go, so they might be a little shocked to see you. So they either stare at you sometimes, or they will actually interact, like, hey, hello, and often I've seen a lot of Vietnamese people sometimes just say hi to me, with or without the camera. So they are very friendly. The children, though, are next level friendly. They love seeing foreign people. It's very common for Vietnamese people just to kind of sit around sometimes, and sometimes they like to take their time. It's just the culture here, so you have to accept it and, you know, make yourself used to how they are. So you can't come here with your standards saying, no, you need to be faster and you need to be more active and I want better service. Just live the life that they're living, you know? And the last part to this last point I want to talk about is don't worry about people ripping you off, because it doesn't happen that often, I think, but there are scammers, there are places where they are targeting tourists and, you know, making them pay double the price and stuff. Mainly the market, the Benton market, outside of there, and then in the heart of District 1, you'll see the scammers carrying sunglasses and selling stuff like that. So generally, the people aren't looking to rip foreigners off. All right, well, there you have it, guys. There's 10 things you need to know for visiting Vietnam. I hope this can be a little travel guide for you to help you prepare for your trip here in Vietnam, especially as a lot of this information, most of this information has came from my experience of my 3 trips here in Vietnam. It's always a good time here in Vietnam. That's why I keep coming back. If you want to hear more about why I like visiting and why I keep coming back, there's a video I made. You can check that out. Vietnam, like I said, it's a wonderful place to be. You shouldn't worry. You will learn a lot of things about Vietnam. There's many things for you to understand, many things for you to know about Vietnam that you will just find out, and it's better to find out when you come here. But when you do come here, be open-minded, be accepting, and I think you will love Vietnam and you will love the culture. There are going to be things that you do not like, things that you really hate, things that you can't live with, but that's why we visit places. That way we can get a little sense of it. So come here, be a tourist, just try to act like a local a little bit, blend in, and everything will be fine. But that's it for the video. That's everything. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, leave them down below and we can engage in a little discussion about Vietnam and what makes a trip in Vietnam more comfortable. Maybe you've already been here, maybe you haven't. Let me know. That is it for this video. Thanks for watching and see you soon. Peace.